So in this video, I'm going to be showing you all how you're going to become a home bartender in the next 2 months. And how do I know that my exact step-by-step strategy works? Well, it's because it's the exact step-by-step strategy that I used myself all the way back in June 2020 when I made my very first cocktail and finally got into the journey of home bartending that has now led me to this point, 6 years later. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ron Virpin. I'm a full-time medical doctor and I've been home bartending since June 2020. During that time, I've learned how to make over 150 different cocktails and I've thrown over 60 cocktail parties. And I've served thousands of drinks to hundreds of people by now. And I now teach other busy professionals like myself how to get into home bartending. And if you follow the exact step-by-step outline that I lay out in this video, you all are also going to be able to call yourselves home bartender within just 2 months of really watching this video. Honestly, probably even sooner than that, but 2 months I think is a great time frame for you to finally master the real basics of home bartending and finally call yourself a home bartender. And in this video, I'm going to be going over that exact step-by-step framework. It calls for 5 total steps. And before we get started with any of those 5 steps, I really have to start with step 0. Step 0 is finding your why. Why is home bartending so important to you? There are tons of different reasons why you can get into home bartending. For me personally, the main reason I got into home bartending was because I wanted to use it as a social lever or a social tool to really build out my dream social circle and social life. And it's something that I did actually twice within the past 6 years of home bartending. I did it once in 2020 when I moved all the way across the country from my hometown of Las Vegas to Albany, New York, a small town in upstate New York. That was when I was beginning my internal medicine residency. I knew I was going to be super busy with work. I knew I was not going to have as much time, for social life. I knew it was also obviously the COVID-19 pandemic. There was the first lockdown, there was restrictions. So not a lot of things could be going on socially. So you really had to find other ways to really build out that social life. And I wanted to use home bartending for that tool because if I master those skills of home bartending during that first year, late 2020, early 2021, when, restrictions, when the quarantine lifted, when restrictions lifted, things like that, I could finally host bigger parties. And then I could then use home bartending to really build out the dream social life I always wanted. I could use it for, friendships. I could use it for dating. I could use it for parties, all these different aspects of a great social life. Home bartending really fits that need. And, you may have a similar why, like myself. Maybe you have a different reason. Maybe you really just love classic cocktails and you really want to learn how to make those for yourself. Maybe, it's a passion that you share with a close friend, a parent, a loved one, your partner, something like that, and it's something that you want to do together. It's a skill that you want to learn with that other person, or you want to learn it so that you can make cocktails then for that other person. Whatever the case may be, whatever reason you have, find your reason, because if you don't have a strong enough why, you're really going to give up along this journey. I think that's true for honestly any hobby that you're going to get into, but I find especially for home bartending, if you don't really have a strong enough why, you're going to fall through the cracks and slip up on this journey. If you have a strong enough why, no matter what the hazards are, no matter what the setbacks are, you're going to still keep progressing with home bartending, not just through these first 2 months, but really for the next several years and hopefully for a lifetime going forward. That's going to be step 1. Step 2 is then buy the right equipment. And I really think, there's tons of videos about like the top 5, 10, 15, 20 different tools you need for home bartending. I really think there's just 4 core tools that you need to get into home bartending to really become a great home bartender. And those 4 will actually all be linked in the description below. Really all you need is a high quality cocktail shaker, like this one right here. Tons of different types of shaker, but this is the Corico weighted one from Cocktail Kingdom. And this is the Boston style shaker. It's the tin on tin Boston style shaker. The other styles are the cobbler shaker or the glass on tin Boston style, but this is really the best one. I've tried out the other ones as well. This is definitely the best one for a lot of different reasons. Metal on metal allows you to get more cold than glass on metal. And also without the cobbler, you don't have that third piece, that cap that can tend to get stuck. This is a lot more easier to work with. And if you watch my videos or any of the other bartending YouTubers, if you go to high-end cocktail bars, they're all going to be using this style shaker. This is the most important tool you need as a home bartender for shaking cocktails. The most important tool you need for a stirred cocktail is going to be this right here. This is a high-quality stirring spoon. This is also from Cocktail Kingdom. Again, link will be in the description below. But you really want one with, this is the 12-inch one. So I think this is the right length for a cocktail spoon, for like a bar spoon for your stirred cocktails. If you have one that's shorter, like, 6 inches, 8 inches, something like that, it's not really going to be providing you with enough leverage to get a really good stir on your cocktails. And if you have one that's even longer than this, like, 16, 20, 24 inches, those are going to be a little bit unwieldy. I find that this is really the sweet spot. I love this bar spoon as well because it has a small muddler on them. This is not going to be enough for your large fruits, but for herbs, for sugar cubes, for things like that, this is going to really get the job done. So it's almost like a 2-in-1, a bar spoon plus a small muddler. So bar spoon you need for all of your stirred cocktails. You need a shaker for all of your shaking cocktails. And then for all types of cocktails, you really need a high quality jigger. I've used tons of different jiggers over the years. This one from Barfly is absolutely by far the best one. It allows you with just one jigger, you can measure 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce, 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces, 2.5 ounces, and 3/8 of an ounce. So that's 7 different measurements with just one jigger. This covers almost all different types of pours. I have a second jigger. This is purely just to measure 1/4 ounce, but really this is only used about like less than 5% of the time, probably closer to like 2-3% of the time. The majority of classic cocktail measurements are going to be using measurements that can be measured with a jigger like this. So if you can only just get one jigger, get this one right here. I think overall this is going to be your most important tool because this is used for both shaken cocktails and stirred cocktails. Whereas like obviously the shaker is just used for shaken cocktails, the spoon is just for stirred cocktails. This is used for both types of cocktails, so this is going to be essential. And then finally, the fourth tool that I have here, this is going to be the ice cube tray from Cocktail Kingdom. This is the 1-inch ice cubes. Cocktail Kingdom makes a number of different ice cube trays. All the different companies out there make tons of different ice cube trays. This is going to be the most bang for your buck. These 1-inch ice cubes are the most versatile. They're used for shaken cocktails, stirred cocktails, highball cocktails. You can use them when you serve them in lowball glasses, highball glasses, solo cups, coffee mugs, metal cups, whatever type of glassware you're going to be using, whatever type of cocktail you're going to be using. These can be used pretty effectively for that. So this is really the workhorse of all the different types of ice cube trays that are out there. So just to summarize for your tools, just by the 4 that I have linked in the description below, that's going to be your cocktail shaker, your stirring spoon or bar spoon, your jigger, and then your ice cube tray. So that's going to be step number 1, buy the equipment. Step number 2 is then pick your first cocktail and make it. And when it comes to picking your first cocktail, you can go honestly 2 different directions. The first direction is just pick whatever your favorite cocktail is. This is the one that I chose to do. When I made my very first cocktail, it was a Negroni. I didn't really have a favorite cocktail at the time, but it was a cocktail that I really enjoyed. This really gives you that extra motivation because it's going to be your first cocktail. You're just getting started with home bartending. You want to have good motivation. You want a good cocktail that will really get you into home bartending. So pick your favorite cocktail. If you don't know what your favorite cocktail is, you don't know that much about home bartending, just pick a classic cocktail for one of the 5 cocktails that I'm about to list. Those are going to be the Daiquri, Moscow Mule, Margarita, Martini, Old Fashioned. One of those 5 classic cocktails, I think the Daiquri is probably the best one of those 5 to do as your first cocktail. But honestly, any of the other 4, Moscow Mule, Margarita, Martini, Old Fashioned, all great options. Again, all of those, I have made videos on all of those different cocktails. So after you pick your first cocktail, whether it's one of those or something else, watch my video on that specific cocktail. Those 5 core ones will all be linked in the description below. But if you really like a different cocktail that's not on that list of 5, like the Negroni, for example, I have a video on that as well. So just watch whichever one of my videos is on that specific cocktail. If I don't have a video yet on your favorite cocktail, just comment down below. I'll try to get that out as soon as possible. Once you have watched that video, you understand how to make the cocktail, you understand the recipe, then just screenshot the description which has the recipe in it, go to the liquor store and the grocery store and just buy all those different ingredients and then put everything together. You already have the equipment from step 1. Now from step 2, you have the ingredients, you have the cocktail picked out, you have watched my video on that cocktail, put it all together and make that first cocktail. That's going to be step number 2. Then step number 3, this is really a 2-month journey. So it's not just about that first couple weeks of making that first cocktail. This is a 2-month journey. So you really want to have at least a couple other cocktails. I would say anywhere between 2 and 4 other cocktails. So in total, you made your first one. Now you're going to be somewhere between 3 and 5 total cocktails. And you want to really progress it down sort of a ladder where you have overlap between your first and second cocktail in terms of the ingredients, and then also overlap between your second and third, then between your third and fourth, and then between your fourth and fifth. So it sort of forms a ladder where there's a lot of overlapping elements. So one way to do this, for example, your first cocktail is the Daiquri. That calls for 3 ingredients: lime juice, simple syrup, and rum, obviously. So rum is the core spirit. So rum, lime juice, simple syrup. For your second cocktail, you can keep the rum the same, keep the lime juice the same, and then just buy some ginger beer, and there you can go out and make a rum buck. So that's a great second option. Then for your third cocktail, you can keep the lime juice and the ginger beer the same, swap the rum for a vodka, just go out and buy a bottle of vodka, and then you can make a Moscow Mule. And then you can keep the vodka the same, go out and buy a bottle of dry vermouth, and there you can go ahead and make a vodka martini. Then you can go and keep the dry vermouth the same, buy a bottle of gin, and then you can make a gin martini. So that's a natural progression. You can go from one cocktail, the Daiquri, all the way to a seemingly unrelated cocktail, the gin martini. But you did it stepwise. You didn't have to go out to the liquor store and buy 2 or 3 or even 4 new ingredients all at once. You really just had to buy like 1 or 2 ingredients at most, sometimes even just 1 ingredient. And that allowed you to go from one cocktail to a completely different cocktail. So, with each of those cocktails that I mentioned was all like 2 or 3 ingredients. And you don't have to go out and buy all these different ingredients all at once. You don't have to have 15 cocktails doesn't necessarily mean, or sorry, 5 cocktails doesn't necessarily mean 15 ingredients. If you have overlap like this, you can really get away with 5 cocktails and even just like 10 or 12 ingredients, a lot less than the 15 that you thought you might need. And there's hundreds of different ways to go about it. Depending on whatever your favorite cocktail is, you can keep the core spirit the same, you can keep the modifiers the same, and you can go from that cocktail to the next one. So find some overlap and find out different recipes, and just watch through my videos, see what each cocktail entails. If you don't really know the recipes that well, that's just watch my videos. You'll learn the recipes for the different cocktails, and then you can go out to the liquor store, and that can inform your purchases. The hard step is really just making that first cocktail. Then from there, you can find some overlap and try to find a natural progression. You can obviously just brute force it too. Your first cocktail and your second cocktail can have nothing in common. I think that really this is the more practical and sustainable way to do it, where you're not having to break the bank every time you go to the liquor store and the grocery store to buy ingredients. So this is how your natural progression will be. And so during these first 2 months, you learned your first cocktail, great. Now you can then add anywhere between 2 and 4 other cocktails. So by the end of these 2 months, you should really have somewhere between 3 and 5 cocktails in your repertoire. So then that's going to be step 3, finding the next few cocktails in your repertoire. So to summarize, step 0, find your why, pick out what you're exactly going to be doing, why you want to get into home bartending. Step 1, buy the equipment, the 4 tools that are going to be linked in the description below. Steps 2 and 3. Step 2 is to pick your first cocktail, go out and make it. Step 3 is to then pick your next 2 to 4 cocktails number 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go out and make those as well. Learn how to make them and make them. Buy the ingredients, make them. Then what you want to do with all those cocktails, now you have cocktails in your repertoire. What do you want to do with it? You want to serve parties. You want to host parties. You want to serve your drinks to other people. And that's going to be steps 4 and 5. Step 4 is to host some sort of smaller get-together. This can honestly be with just one other person. This can just be you inviting 1 or 2 coworkers after work. You want to vent after a busy work week. You want to make some cocktails for some people. That's a great option as well. If you're married or in a relationship, you can have a date night with your partner. If you have a roommate or you live with your family, something like that, you can just do something nice for the people that you live with. Host just a small get-together, make a few drinks for the people that you live with. Then step 5 is to take that one step further and host a bigger party. This is why I'm giving you a 2-month time frame as opposed to just like a few weeks or a month even. With a 2-month time frame, somewhere at the end of that 2 months, you can set a date. This is the date I want to host a party. I'm going to send out invites. I'm going to invite people to my home. And really, it doesn't have to go too crazy. It doesn't have to be like 10, 20, 30, 40, 20, 30, 40 people. Anywhere between like 8 and 15 people is honestly like ideal for your very first party as a home bartender. This is really where you get to, flex your muscles. You get to show off your cocktails to other people and really, it's not just about home bartending in terms of making the cocktails. Home bartending is also about hosting and learning those skills and becoming better at, hosting parties, becoming hospitable, things like that. You have to learn these skills. And really the only way to do that is to make cocktails and serve them to other people and host parties. So that's why steps 4 and 5 are very important. I always say that you can't really call yourself a home bartender unless you serve your cocktails to other people. And the best way to do that is to host these smaller get-togethers and also larger parties as well. So that's going to be step 4, smaller get-together, date night with your partner, have a couple of friends over after work, something small like that. Then step 5 is going to be to have a bigger party, somewhere between like 8 and 15 people come over to your apartment or your house, and you make cocktails, you have a menu, you host people, you learn how to host, things like that. And, set that somewhere at the end of those 2 months. And if you really follow this step-by-step guide, 5-step guide, where, step 0 is just picking out your reason, picking out your why for why you want to get into home bartending. Step 1 is to buy the right equipment. Tools will all be linked in the description below. Steps 2 and 3 are then to start making your cocktails. Step 2 is to pick your first cocktail, watch my video on that cocktail, buy the ingredients for that cocktail, make that cocktail. Step 3 is to then replicate that with at least 2 to 4 other cocktails so that by the end of these 2 months, you have somewhere between 3 and 5 cocktails within your repertoire. Step 4 and 5 are then about serving your cocktails to other people, sharing what you know, putting it to good use, and really serving, because home bartending is not just about making cocktails, it's about serving cocktails, not just to yourself, but to other people as well. Step 4 is to host a smaller party or a smaller get-together, 1, 2, 3 other people, something like that, a really small event. Step 5 is to then take that a step further and host a bigger event, somewhere between 8 and 15 people ideally, is great for your first party as a home bartender. And if you follow this step-by-step guide, honestly, you guys will be amazing home bartenders within just 2 months. I know because this is the exact step-by-step method that I followed all the way back in June 2020 to August 2020. And now, 6 years later, it's led me on this amazing journey. I've learned over 150 different cocktail recipes. I've hosted over 60 cocktail parties during these past 6 years. I've made tons of friends. I've served thousands of cocktails to hundreds of different people. I've been on YouTube for over a year now. I've made over 150 different videos. It's been an amazing, rewarding journey, but it all starts with those first 2 months of home bartending. Follow this step-by-step guide, and you guys will also become amazing home bartenders within just 2 months. And from there on, then you can really flex your muscles. Then you can really expand your skill and your knowledge as a home bartender and become even better. Continue to watch my videos, continue to grow as home bartenders, continue to experiment, continue to practice, continue to serve your cocktails to other people. Anyways, that's all the advice I have for this video. If you found the advice in this video helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I like to do 2 styles of videos on this channel. The first one will be like this one, where it's talking head style. I go over tips and tricks, share stories from my own home bartending journey, things like that I hope will help you guys become better home bartenders. The second style of video is tutorial style videos where I show you guys how to make specific cocktails, including the different cocktail videos that I have linked in the description below on cocktails like the Daiquri, for example. And then finally, if you really want to take home bartending even more seriously, I actually have a paid community on school.com. That'll be the first link in the description below. Thank you. Cheers.